Hey everybody, getting my tech all set up. I see a couple people hopping on already. So I'm going to get started here in just about 1 minute. If you guys could help me by telling me in the comments that you can hear me, that you can see the slide on your screen, that will be really helpful for me so I know that all of this tech is working. I would really appreciate that. So it's funny that when you do tech for a living and then you are setting up your tech, you still get nervous. So that's a thing apparently. But your comments will help me know that you're hearing me and that everything is working. Great. Thank you, Jessie. I see your comment that you can see me and hear me. So that gives me a big sigh of relief. And I'm going to turn the video on in just a second. I've got quite the little setup back here. So I'm trying to get my space organized a little bit. I'm so excited about this today. I've been planning this for so long. So it's great that it's here and we're ready to go. And so we're going to jump in just a moment. So I'm going to add myself to the screen. Hey guys, great. Thank you for the feedback that you can hear and see me. I feel so much better about that. Like I said, it's really funny. You work in tech and you teach people these tools all the time, and then you go to use all the tools and you're like, oh my gosh, I really hope this works. So if not, we'll roll with the punches. But I am so glad to just have this day here. Like I said, I've been planning this for a few weeks now, putting together the workshop. And I'm just excited to share it with all of you and hope that you get a tremendous amount of value out of what we're doing. So I am going to just jump in because it's 1 o'clock and that's when we said we were going to start. I want to respect your time and so just to make sure that you're in the right place, this is the online workshop for how to identify your ideal board member. And I'm Andrea Shirey, the CEO of 19 Design. And this is a free workshop. So if you didn't register and you're just stumbling onto us from Facebook, that's fine. A little bit later, I'm going to give you a link that you can use to get the replay of this if you'd like, if you weren't able to register ahead of time. If you did register, you're going to get the replay here in a couple of hours once I can download the video and get that posted for you. So if you need to duck out early or those kind of things, that's fine too. And I would be so grateful if for any reason sometime during the workshop you're not seeing either the slides or you're not hearing me, please give me a comment so that I can make adjustments on this end. I'm using earbuds. Hopefully that will cut down on any echoing, and I'm just glad for us to go ahead and get started. So again, my name's Andrea Shirey. I'm the CEO of 19 Design. And this company was built on the entire premise that nonprofit leaders are incredible. You're passionate. I want you to feel empowered about owning your digital space and having access to the best digital tools that are out there to grow your reach without breaking the budget. So what started early on as a company for website design and email marketing has really morphed and adapted to meet the needs of nonprofits all over the country and even a few other countries, which is really exciting to me. What you might not know about me is that I can absolutely speak in front of a crowd and online like this and be the extrovert when I need to, but I prefer to recharge alone with a good book or a long walk. And so I can switch roles really easily. I don't know if you can relate to that or not. My dog kind of runs my work life. He's at daycare today, so we don't have to worry about that interruption. I've always run this company from my home. That used to be being here alone. Now, post-COVID life means I share an office with my husband, and my kids are pretty much guaranteed to be in the background of some kind of video or Zoom call during the day. So we are adjusting just like you guys. And really, I want you to know that I say no way to people who think it's okay to leave money on the table because they are scared of tech or they don't want to learn something new. I love walking nonprofits through learning a new tool or technique that's going to save them time or money, or most of the time both. So I'll tell you a little more about my specific work experience and background here in a little bit. But for now, I want to just reference, because there is going to be a replay, that this workshop is live, and today is Thursday, August 20th, 2020. So while I'm getting started and getting the screen switched around here, tell me in the comments who you are, what city you're watching from, so I can kind of see who we have with us here today, and we will go from there. So I'm going to switch this over. And so again, just go ahead and tell me in the comments where you're from, where are you watching from, what organization are you with, what do you hope to learn, anything you want to drop there in the comments, that'll be helpful for me. If you're watching live, again, just use the comments, and I'm going to be able to try to see those. I'm working on a couple of different screens here, so bear with me. And if you ask a question, I'll try to scroll back through there. It'd be really nice to have an assistant on a day like today, but it's just me. So if you're watching the replay, you can email me your questions, and I'll try to respond to those as soon as I can. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, go ahead and share this live stream with your Facebook friends. That way, if you've got some nonprofit friends on your friends list, they'll see this and maybe join us, or they'll see it when they're scrolling here later today. What you're going to need today. So you're going to need a notebook and a pen, or some kind of digital note-taking tool, because this is a workshop. This isn't just a webinar. I know my registration link said webinar. I should have fixed that, but this is a workshop where I hope that you can really jot down a lot of helpful notes. You're going to need a willingness to look at board recruitment from a new perspective. I'm going to ask you to kind of change your lens a little bit. And I want you to have the mindset of an action taker, not just a passive learner. Decide right now that you will take some kind of action at the end of this workshop. Thank you all for dropping all your information in the comments. This is so fun. I'm seeing some of my friends, my clients, Erin. Hey, Erin. Tasha from the Nonprofit Association. Love to have you here. Hopefully this is information you can share with your members, and some folks from out of town. Oh, Marianne, you made it. I'm so glad to see you here. So this is great. I am so excited to get started. So here is what you can expect in the next hour. I'm going to go ahead and turn that banner off there. What you can expect in the next hour, I've kind of laid these out before in the email that I sent you. Now, I've worked in the questions that I got ahead of time, so those should be answered within the hour as well. And I do want to say that this is one piece of a larger training that I offer called Build a Better Board. And so if you hear me reference that, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I'll take a few minutes at the end of the workshop to tell you more about that training as well, but just wanted you to know what to expect from that. But today, I hope that we're going to help you discover a better way to recruit the right board members, and teach you what an ideal board member profile looks like and how that can set you and your nonprofit up for success. Also, we're going to learn why answering 3 questions about yourself and your nonprofit is a critical step to take before you recruit. We're going to help you understand the one thing that nonprofits get wrong about recruitment and how not to fall into that trap. And then I want to help you find out how to access even more digital tools that are going to help you implement what you learn really quickly so you can see results faster. So this is interactive, and I am going to be asking you some questions, and I hope that you will go along with me from there in the comments, because I think that's what really makes this sort of online feel more like we're in a room together, which I really wish we were. So please, participate. Don't feel any shyness about that, and your responses are really going to help me, and it's just going to help you to process the material as well. So you're going to see me turn some banners on and off. If you see me looking to the left or right, bear with me. I'm trying to manage a couple of different screens here as well. So I want to see a few other people. Hi, Tim Pingley. Tim Pingley is joining us from here in Vienna. That's where I am. And Tim, I'm so glad you're here. One, it makes me nervous because you're one of my former board members. So you could just blow this whole ship up by telling people about your experience with me running a board that you were on. But I'm glad to see that you're here on behalf of another board that you serve on as well. So, okay, so we're going to dive in, and I'm going to start with a question. So when it comes to recruiting board members, I want you to tell me which one of these you identify with the most in the comments. So are you over there on the left? You're very busy. You've got hair on fire. Your board members' terms come up and you kind of freak out. You've got to recruit someone new. We're going to call you the Seth Meyers answer here. Or are you kind of in the middle? That's the South Park team around a big table. Does your nominating committee take care of everything? They've got this. It's really a group effort. They take care of it all for you. That's kind of our middle South Park answer. And then on the right, are you Lewis? Are you a genius model? I mean, you have the board you want. You know how to do this. Everything is great. So which one are you? Tell me in the comments. Drop in there and tell me, are you Seth? Are you South Park? Or are you Lewis? If you choose Seth, I have great news for you, that I want you to really listen in and see that there's an easier path for board recruitment than that. Now, no offense against Seth Meyers. Now, if you're in the middle and you're letting your nominating committee handle everything, I want you to make sure you have the replay of this video. Again, if you registered, I'm going to send it to you later today. If you didn't, I'm going to give you a link where you can get the replay sent to you. But I want you to send that replay to your nominating chair, to your committee, and schedule a time to talk through this. Because if you're letting someone else kind of handle that process, we want to equip them as well. We don't want all this information just to live with you. And if you're Lewis, well, you probably don't need me here today, but I'm glad you're here and I hope you'll stick around. So I see some comments here. We've got a couple people saying they're Seth, their hair's on fire. We've got a South Park in there as well. So this is good. I'm not seeing any Lewis. I want to know if you're Lewis in there because I'm going to need you to cheer me on today as well. So like I said, no shame, no matter which one you are. This is something that we're here to talk about and to help you with. So great. And you guys can continue to drop those in the comments if you want there. I'll catch up with those here in a little bit. So this seems like a logical place to start, right? What is an ideal board member anyway? And to really understand what an ideal board member is, we first need to agree on what we really want from our boards, right? I'm making some assumptions today that you're either an executive director, you're someone responsible for board recruitment or board management. Again, you're on a board or a committee that's in charge of this. So those are kind of the assumptions that I'm making today. But let's talk about what we typically want from our board members, because before we can really dive into creating a profile for a new member, we need to make sure we know what it is we're looking for. And this isn't going to fit everyone, but it's going to be a pretty good overall picture. So we want board members who are engaged. We want them to show up, not just to meetings, but to whatever we ask them to do, whether we're asking them for help or to come to an event or to volunteer outside of the normal meeting setting. And then we want them to follow through, right? We want them to keep us focused on the big picture vision. And we want them to serve as our best recruiters for new board members. We want them to give financially, right? Maybe become monthly or legacy donors. And we want them to be as passionate about the work as we are. Practically speaking, we probably want them to stop throwing together a nominating committee meeting, talking about who they know and who they want at the table, and then kind of making desperate pleas for people to join. Or we want them to stop telling their friends, oh yeah, it's great. Just, you just have to show up for an hour and it looks great. So would you agree that's kind of what we want? Give me some affirmation in the comments if this is what you want from your board, or do you want something different? Have we kind of hit that? So I want to hear from you. Is there anything that's missing on this list that you really want from your board? And while you're dropping those in the comments, I'm guessing some of you, normally when I talk about things like this, are like, oh my gosh, how does she know all of this, right? Well, I'm going to tell you about my firsthand experience with recruiting board members for a nonprofit and how I used this model along with some other tools in my Build a Better Board training to create a board that took that nonprofit to its largest fundraising results ever. We're going to come back to that story in a second, but I know this because I've been in nonprofit work for over 20 years. I've served as a higher ed fundraiser. I've worked in corporate giving and grant writing. I was a board liaison for a university with a responsibility to vet potential board members. That was interesting. I've served as the executive director of our local United Way, and I was responsible for board recruitment there as well. And then now I'm a nonprofit consultant and trainer and speaker. So this is all kind of coming together to make my background. And yeah, that is normally what I look like. Let me just put myself back on the screen here. That picture was taken pre-COVID, right, on a day where I had hair and makeup. So probably not the most accurate, but here I am over here. So great. Yeah, I hear you saying this is a great list, Jolie says, and Kathy says it looks good. Yes, that they would support us not financially, absolutely. Monthly donors, legacy donors, that's what we want from our board members. And yeah, Tasha says be enthusiastic about the organization. Absolutely. So is an ideal board member just a list of all the perfect qualities we want a board member to have? No, if it were that easy, we would probably not need this workshop. What I call an ideal board member is a person who is pretty much an exact fit for your organization. They bring the skills and passion necessary to help you move the nonprofit forward. And that's important because we're going to talk a lot about this. Like recruiting the wrong board member can cost you time, money, and resources down the road. So we're looking for somebody who has the skills and passion necessary to move you forward, and that they have the skills that you need at the time you need them. And that's going to resurface over and over again in this workshop, that we're looking for someone who can help us take us to where we need to go. And that, as you all know, changes in different seasons. So your ideal board member is really the best fit for your organization, and that's both culture, their personality, their experiences, again, the skills you need at the time you need it, and then a passion for the mission. And somebody else said that, Tasha said that, so absolutely, you're right on there. And then by identifying that ideal board member, you're going to be equipped to recruit the right person for your board, and maybe even more importantly, learn how to attract the right people to you. So we don't want to just come up with a system that's going to help us and keep asking people to serve and inviting them to serve, but we want the kind of board that people are talking about and saying, oh my gosh, I'd love to help that organization. I would love to be on that board. And that's possible. It is possible to set up a system where you have a board waiting list and where you really have the pick of exactly who you need on your board. So I've got another little question here for you before we dive in a little bit further. And I show you exactly how we're going to identify your board members. So I want you to kind of tell me which one you are from this list, again, in the comments. So over on the left, are you somebody that has folders and folders of conference notes tucked away safely in your desk, nice and neat and organized, and they just kind of stay there after the conference? Or are you kind of in the middle where you like to learn, and normally when you learn something, you'll try a few things to see if it works, experiment a little bit? Or are you an action taker? You learn a skill and technique and you are already rewriting the strategic plan. You're calling your board chair. You're planning on how to get everyone else on board. You are an action taker. So which one are you? Tell me in the comments. I'm so curious because normally we have a pretty good mix of all three of these. And listen, there's no shame here. Let me say that again. If you're in the first group, it's okay. I get it. Today, I want you to take some notes, but at the end of this workshop, I'm going to ask you to take action. So you filers and experimenters, please be prepared for that. If you're in the second group, you're going to be right at home. There's going to be some steps here that you can literally implement like today. You can start working on this. And of course, I'm going to challenge you to take it a step further too, but you are going to be right at home. And my fellow Stephen Colbert's over there, again, you help me cheer everyone else on today. And I want to see big action from you at the end. Myra says she is an action taker combo. Great. Lots of people, a little bit of a combination of both. So that's awesome. And I think that is a great place to be as well. So, okay, let's go into this. I want to give you just a little bit of background. I told you that I was once exactly where you might be right now. Like I said, if you're Colbert, you're my people. I watch a webinar and I'm all in, or I go to a conference and I come back on fire. And as a matter of fact, many of the ideas I'm teaching you today came as a result of learning from my peers what wasn't working and then figuring out a better way. So a few years ago, I was the ED for a nonprofit that had a pretty stale board. Don't get me wrong, they were showing up. They consistently showed up for 60 minutes every month, in fact. But if the meeting wasn't wrapped up neatly within those 60 minutes, they were shuffling papers, looking at their watch, wondering when they could tick that board meeting attendance box and move on. This was so foreign to me, because at my previous organization, there was always active board discussion. Everyone left with an action item. Everyone had a role to play in whatever we were working on or whatever crisis of the moment it was. So when I was put in a situation where I was fighting the clock and, just the mention of asking somebody to make maybe a little bigger donation, give a little more time, that was met with some resistance. And I'll just tell you, those early months were really hard. I felt frustrated and I was discouraged because I had worked hard to prepare for the meetings and I would go in really excited. But the whole meeting was basically just me talking, very little engagement. Everyone seemed to want to just get out of there as fast as I could. If this is resonating with you at all, let me know, because I'm so curious if this is just my experience or not. Now, in their defense, they were doing exactly what they were told. They had been given low expectations and they were meeting every single one. Eventually, though, I had to have a heart-to-heart with my board chair and tell him how I was feeling, because I am the kind of leader that wants to take action, and I recognize when there's some room for improvement. I really just told him that we had to change and we had to do it better. And he challenged me to figure out how to do that. You can't just, as you can't just wipe out the board and start over. So we really got to work figuring out what it was going to take. And that is really where this information I'm sharing with you today comes into play. So, just trust that I've been where you are, and I'll kind of continue that story here later on. Myra asked what size boards are optimal. Myra, I want to answer that at the end. So if I don't, please remind me to do that, because that's a great question. So part of my action process was to come up with the system that worked, right? We knew we were going to have to change how we had to recruit board members and who we were asking. So instead of just going after those people, everyone who, those people that everyone seems to want on their board, we got really focused. We knew there was a better way. And then the one that was leaving me stressed out and scrambling and with a board that really just wasn't the right fit. So these are kind of the three big areas that we started to work through. We had to get honest by asking ourselves some questions. And then to identify your ideal board member, we really have to define what you're offering. And we're going to talk about that mistake, tell you what that is in just a minute. And then we want to create a profile that really includes all of this information and hits three really key areas so that that's going to equip us to go out and recruit the right persons. That's kind of the framework for what we're going to cover here today. So the first thing I want to dive in is the questions you have to ask yourself. There are three of them. And answering this, it seems kind of odd, because when you're focused on recruiting, you don't really want to turn that inside. But it turns out that if you're not clear on some of these things, you're going to get into trouble later on. So the first question to ask yourself is, why are you so passionate about your nonprofit? And what part of your mission keeps you going when things get tough? This is going to be really important in the recruiting process. In fact, one of the signs that you have the right board member in mind is that when you finally invite them to join the board, they should be asking you questions. This should not be a one-way conversation. They should be really intrigued about why you're so passionate and what you love about the organization. So this needs to be really clear in your mind. And you'll also find that when you identify your own passions, you'll find some synergy with those on your board that resonate for the same reason. So this is how you're going to find some common ground with that ideal board member later in the process. Of all the questions we talk about today, this one will probably be one of the easiest ones as well. The next question is incredibly important, and it's going to take a little while to flesh out, but you're going to basically come up with the characteristics of your ideal board member. So if you're the ED or you're the head of your nominating committee, a board chair, and you're looking around and you had this dream table, right, that to move your nonprofit forward, what does that table look like? What are the characteristics of those people? What do they do for a living? Are they in the corporate world? Are they social service workers? Are they moms that are at home raising their kids? What kind of personality do they have, right? Are they outgoing and opinionated and they're kind of like those action takers like those of us? Or, are you looking for somebody who's a little more reserved? Somebody who's a great listener. By the way, that is a great quality to have on your list for your ideal board member. And how do they interact with others during a board during a board meeting? That one can be really important. Don't worry about how realistic it is or if this kind of person even exists. You can make it a wish list, but you need to get specific, because when you have this list in mind and you're in the middle of a recruitment pitch, you're going to hear that match, or you're going to see some red flags and know that maybe they just aren't the right fit for your organization. And again, we are talking about skills and characteristics for the time that you are in, and that changes. So what could have been your ideal board member profile a year ago may look very different for you now. And we're going to talk more about the need to, again, kind of fit in not just with the skill set, but also in the culture of your nonprofit. So that's question number 2 in this process. And question number 3, now we're getting to the good stuff here, because when you answer this question, you spark a little fire. It's like pretending you're on some Shark Tank-esque show and they have to choose between you and the other guy, and you kind of feel that fight well up in you. You're asking what makes your nonprofit an outstanding opportunity for a board member. How are you different from other nonprofits, and why should that board member choose you? This really helps you narrow down your ideal board member, because you're looking for someone who's going to fit your organization. You're not just looking for the person, volunteers a lot or has connections, or looking for that person that's going to have, you want that person that's going to add value to the unique contribution that you make to your community. This is where you're thinking through your goals, right? What does your nonprofit hope to accomplish in the next 2 or 3 years, and who do you need around the table to make that happen? You're going to know this is your ideal candidate, because you're going to get so excited about who this person that surfaces to your mind, and you might find out that that's also another nonprofit's ideal board member in your area. And that's where just knowing how you stand out makes a huge difference, because you're going to have to show that board member why you are the right fit for them. This isn't, like I said, this isn't just an all one-way conversation. And if I can return to that story I started a little bit ago, this is probably where the organization I was with had gone astray a little prior to me arriving there. The board I started with was full of powerful people in big title positions, but it was also a group that was really fragmented. There was very little collaboration, and there was some really big flags with members who were not a fit for the culture we had. For example, we had one board member who pretty much disagreed with the nature of our work, which was like lifting up people who couldn't help themselves. They consistently found fault with our hand up approach, and literally sometimes criticized the exact kind of client we helped on a regular basis. And it was a perfect example of how a board member can have valuable skills in terms of their professional knowledge, the corporation they represent, but they are still not a fit for you. So if you're focused just on the skills or just on the job or just on the company, and you're not focused on the culture and the fit, you risk getting a yes from someone who has, who just may not be a good fit around your table. And that's something really important to remember. So I want to stop for a second because, we're kind of like halfway through this workshop, and I'm guessing you're thinking, I have no time for this. Have you heard of the coronavirus? But I just want to pause real quick and say, try to stop that train of thought, because you can't afford not to go through this process. I've done it. I've had clients that have gone through this process, and the cost of recruiting the wrong board member far outweighs the time that you're going to spend going through this exercise. Without throwing anyone under the bus, tell me in the comments, have you had the wrong board member before? Don't tell me their name. Please don't type their name, but tell me, have you had the wrong board member before? Because then I'm going to know there's some understanding here of what that can cost you. They take a lot of time and energy, and they're not helping to move you forward. So, let me know that you kind of understand that challenge. And I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to glance back at the comments in just a minute. So once you've answered those, I'm seeing some yeses in there. So we definitely have some understanding. That's great. I want to know if you've ever made this mistake. So that's kind of my next question for you is has this happened to you? But once you've answered those 3 questions and you've recorded this somewhere, you're going to want to switch gears a little bit. And I love that thought, Myra. Myra says we're also missing more of the right members. Absolutely. If the wrong board member is taking up a seat, you're taking up a really good point. So great. I'm so glad to have some feedback on that. So once we answer those questions about ourselves, we're going to switch gears and move into kind of the second set of questions we need to ask. And this is where I see nonprofits making a big mistake, because even if they're doing step 1 really well and they're analyzing what it is their organization needs, they keep the focus there on them. We've got nonprofits leading with pitches like, oh man, our nonprofit is really struggling and needs help. Can you help us? Or our nonprofit is amazing, and wow, you would love to be a part of this, right? Both of these might be true, but here's what you never want to do when recruiting a board member. You never want to make it about you. This is not an effective recruitment strategy. You're selling something. And if your ideal board member is going to live up to that list of wishes that you made about what an effective board looks like, you're going to have to make this offer about them. And when you change that mindset and you begin to focus on what you can do for the board member, you begin to speak their language, right? And that's when you get the attention of the right people. There's going to be time for you to sell your nonprofit, right? But in the beginning, we've got to get in front of the right people, and the right kind of board members, they like this approach. This really speaks to them. So, if you've ever made the mistake of kind of leading with how great or how awful things are, probably not the best strategy there. So the second step in identifying your ideal board member is to define what you have to offer. And these answers become crucial to how you will approach the board member and whether or not that message is going to be well received. Is identify that perfect board member, go through all of this work, and then hear a rejection because the way we presented the opportunity just didn't resonate with them. So these are also the core points you'll make when you begin writing an email to recruit a new board member. And I'm going to be sharing with you how you can get some help with those emails and how to know what to say to potential board members, where to share that message. I'm going to share that with you at the end. And again, this is going to sound like a lot of work, but you can't afford not to do this. So the defining the offer is really crucial, because when you have this in writing, you can kind of come back to it when you start to doubt yourself, or you doubt that you can actually have that person on your board. And it's also going to give you a really great opportunity to have some conversation with your current board members. You're going to figure out, what motivates them. In my Build a Better Board training, we do an entire module on the experience of your current board members and how to improve that to help you recruit new board members. And part of that process is just having a really open and clear dialogue with your board. So in this step, you're defining the offer. You're saying, what does your potential board member need from you, right? Are there any problems that you can solve for them? It's going to be really important to have that in your pocket. And then you want to list all the ways that you think those board members could benefit from being on your board. And again, that's where you have that conversation with your current board members. And you just ask them, what are you getting out of this, right? The worst that's going to happen is they're going to kind of look at you with a blank stare. And it's going to be an opportunity for you to fix some things with your current board. So this conversation can't go wrong. Either way, you're going to learn something. And then what also helps in this process is to tap into your personal experience. So think about the benefits you get from serving on a board or volunteering if you don't have personal board experience, and then write those benefits down so that you have all of those. So this is kind of a whole package. The step 2 is defining the offer. And when I say write this down, I'm just talking about I'm talking about like a Google Doc or a Word document, even in a notebook, nothing fancy here to kind of keep track of these things. So we've got step 1, asking ourselves those questions, and we've got step 2, defining the offer. And then the third part of this process is when you start to pull all this together. And again, we're just talking about some kind of document here. So you're going to create this profile. And at the end of the profile, you're going to identify these really 3 core areas. What does the board member need from us, right? What do we have? How does what we have to offer align with their interest and skills? That is a big one, guys. We have got to make a match here. We've got to find the person who's has the skills right now to tackle what we're working on, not what we did 3 years ago, not what we have planned 5 years from now, but the season that we're in right now. And then what are the mutually beneficial ways we can work together? And we do want to have some other things in our pocket because it might be that you identify the perfect board member and they're not available. It's not a good time for them. You want to have some other mutually beneficial ways that you can work together ready so that you can kind of pivot into that conversation if you were to get a no or a not right now. So this profile, it doesn't have to be fancy. Like I said, just kind of start working this out on a piece of paper and really kind of sketching who it is you need. And you might end up needing to have a couple of these, right? Because if your board terms are staggered, hopefully they are, you might have 2 or 3 people rotating off at one time. And those 2 or 3 people are bringing different value to your organization. So you want to be able to, replicate that with the next board member. Or if they're not doing so great, we want to make sure that we're bringing in great new people to replace them. And again, this profile it's no longer going to be like, hey, we should ask Joe because he works for Megabucks Corporation, right? We need money from them. I have seen that over and over and over again. It's going to be more like, you know what? I think Beth is a really good fit for us because she understands what we're trying to do. She has volunteer experience at a community level. She's got a background in PR. That's going to help us since we're getting this new brand message out. That is the process you're going to find yourself going through. And you guys, it's really powerful. And when it comes together, it is really exciting. So your ideal board member profile kind of becomes your game plan for the next board member you need to recruit. So what do we do once you have this profile in place, right? We've talked about the 3 things that kind of make up the profile. First of all, you have to know it really well so that when you're out networking at an event or you're talking with donors or volunteers, you can have this on your radar, and that'll kind of go off when you hear some of those key phrases that kind of align with a profile. And you're like, oh, okay, I think they might be a match. I know where to steer this conversation. The other thing you need to do is share it with your board chair, share it with your nominating committee, or really anyone that is helping you recruit. Because it doesn't do any good to have this profile and then you've got a board member off doing their own thing, inviting their buddies. Guys, I know that happens. I've seen that happen. I've got something to help you with that as well. But the third thing you have to do is use these principles of knowing who you need, why you need them, and then keeping the invitation focused on them when you make that offer to join your board. I'm going to say that again. I probably should have made that a slide. The key principles are knowing who you need, why you need them, and then keeping the invitation focused on them when you make the offer to join your board. By the way, always use the word invite when you're recruiting. You want people to feel special, like they were chosen for a specific reason. This really elevates the experience, and it sets the expectations from the very beginning that you have something valuable to offer them, by kind of saying this is an invitation. Don't just send somebody like the job description to be like, hey, does this interest you? So again, your ideal board member profile really becomes the game plan for your next recruit. Now, I want to mention here that there's another digital tool that can take this process we just walked through and kind of amplify the results. And that's the use of a board skills inventory. The inventory tool allows you to simultaneously assess the skills of your current board members. And this isn't just like who has a job in accounting or who's a lawyer. This takes into account their diversity, their geographic location, all those factors as well. Inventory tools aren't the end-all be-all on their own, but when you use them in conjunction with an ideal board member profile, the two together can be a real game changer. So in the Build a Better Board training, you have a skills inventory worksheet already prepared for you that you can customize, but you can also just create this on your own, just using any kind of Excel sheet or Google Sheet, those kind of things, just something to kind of keep track of so that when it is time to recruit, you're using these two tools together. You're kind of assessing what you have and the skills you have. And then you've also got that paired up with the ideal board member profile that kind of tells you what you need going forward. So I wanted to mention that. I'm going to just drop, the chat's been kind of quiet. Maybe you guys are just all taking this in, but can you just tell me, is this all making sense to you? Is it resonating? I see that Jolie said we need some serious help with this. And so it's, oh gosh, it says we started our nonprofit after losing our active duty son. And it's very personal. Jolie, I see that. I hear that. That's got to be a really hard situation. And you're right. A great board is going to help you just move that mission forward and help more people know. So I'm so glad you're here and sharing that. But just tell me, is this stuff making sense to you? Are we kind of talking about brand new stuff to you, or are these things you've heard before? Just curious there. But listen, when you begin to look at board recruitment through the lens of partnership and implement this strategy with every board member you recruit, this will translate into getting your programs and services into the hands of those who need it most. And really, at the end of the day, that's why we're here. That's why you're here. That's why you work so hard, because you are having you have so many programs and so many services that are valuable to so many people, and we need to make sure that happens. And you can't do this work alone. This is hard work. Your board should be an extension of your team. So, Myra says, I have not been included in the process by the committee. And I think that's, Myra, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of this work is happening at a committee level, and it may not be happening in this way. So if you have an opportunity to really kind of combat that and to say, hey, can we talk about this? Or can you involve me in this process and give me sort of an opportunity to chime in about who the kind of person I think we need? I think that will really help. So I hope you have the opportunity to do that, Myra. I want to bring my story kind of full circle so you can kind of see how that ends up, because that fragmented board I inherited, I had to take action. I had to start having tough conversations. I had to revise the board member expectations and essentially untrain them. I slowly worked through creating some ideal profiles of the kind of board member I thought would best serve our organization. And I got really clear on who we needed based on what our goals were. And I started to make a list of the people in our community that might be a good fit. My board chair and I, we brainstormed after every board meeting, talking about who we had and who we needed. And as their terms ended, those people on our board who were not a good fit, if they rotated off, we were ready. We had clarity on the next steps, and we began to cultivate those ideal board members and set the stage for the offer well before we needed them to serve. And I think that's another key point here, is that this doesn't have to be a process that waits until you have an opening, right? You know what your terms are, when they're up. As soon as you have your ideal profiles, begin to cultivate those people if you haven't already. A lot of times our board members are donors that we know or volunteers that we know, but sometimes they're not. And so if you can start inviting them to events, or, I know meetings are hard right now, but even have a call with them. Somebody said the other day, I thought was a great idea. If you are having trouble cultivating donors right now in the midst of the pandemic, invite them for a socially distanced walk. I thought that was genius. Meet up at a park, stand 6 feet apart, and just go for a short walk and talk about what's going on at your nonprofit. So you can start cultivating these ideal board members before you need them and setting that stage. So when we started doing that, something else happened that I want you to know and be prepared for. Not everyone that was less than ideal fit rotated off, but their energy began to change as new board members joined us. And so they were kind of learning by osmosis, basically. Some of them really turned into fantastic board members without us having to do much at all. But it all happened because we got really clear on who we needed and how we were going to recruit them. So to be honest, I kind of did things out of order because we also ended up improving the experience of current board members. We equipped them to, with better information. We started running the meetings differently. That's where my upside down agenda was born. This is something I teach in the Build a Better Board training. Erin, if you're still on, will you drop in the comments what you think about the upside down agenda? Because I think you commented on that when you saw that. But in less than 6 months, I started receiving emails from local leaders who wanted to be on our board. And that's when I knew it was working. It's all great. I wish I had done those backwards. I wish I had really focused on the current board experience first and then started on that ideal board member journey. But regardless, it was a time of transformation really for the organization. And by the time I left that job, we moved from a board who was meeting the very low expectations set for them to a board that was moving us towards a really big, audacious goal. From what I hear now, that board is still thriving. It just took looking at recruitment through a different lens. It wasn't because I was someone special or I was a guru. It was just because I knew we needed to change, and I thought we could do better. And so I took some action. So, I want to know from you, tell me, do you have the board you need, right? I mean, I guess that's my question here. Let me pop this back up here. So I want to hear from you, having kind of heard what I've been talking about here, tell me where you are right now. So do you have the board you want, or the board your organization needs, right? Are you consistently recruiting the right board members for the goals that you have? Are you confident in how you're reaching out to potential board members? So if you can say yes to those, great. Tell me that. But then also tell me that, hey, we need some help in this area. Like we have something to improve. I think it's good for you to do that assessment and kind of, understand for yourself where you are and where you want to go. Myra, it's chiming in again. Myra, thank you so much for being an active participant here, because, she says that's part of our issue. No one has a clear idea of what it means to serve on the board. They need more training and descriptions of their job. Yes, yes, yes. So, a big challenge that we have as nonprofits is doing these things simultaneously, right? It kind of feels overwhelming sometimes because we have to equip our board members right now, but we also, at the same time, we've got to have this pipeline. So it's not binary. We don't choose one or the other. We have to kind of go at this at the same time. So I appreciate that. Anybody else kind of tell me, do you have what you need, or is this, is this resonating with you that you need some help? And Kathy says we're starting a new nonprofit. Yes, and we want to get it right from the beginning. Yes, Kathy, I'm so glad you're here. You have a big advantage because you're kind of going into this really equipped. The fact is, a lot of us kind of walk into organizations with established boards, and we don't have the opportunity to do a whole lot outside of, taking advantage of those terms. So again, kind of getting really clear on who you need and what you need. So this is great feedback. Okay, just kind of keep this conversation going here then. If you had, if you're not where you want to be, that's where we need you to kind of take on that Stephen Colbert profile, right? We want you to be able to say, yes, this system can work from us. Yes, we can change how our board functions, and we can get to these goals. And this, again, that's where I recognize we had a board full of really qualified professionals who were nice, and yet they were not the ideal board members we needed for that time in our organization. So, yeah, and Marianne says our board, we're always recruiting, and she's right, because this is not, that's a good thing. Well, really, when it comes down to it, because you continually have the opportunity to change who's around the table for the season that you're in. And so that is great. Tasha says, I like the focus on the potential board member. Yes, most nonprofits focus on what it says, we tend to focus on what they can do for an organization, or what the organization needs. Yes, it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship there to get the right fit. So tell me, let's keep this going a little bit. If you had the exact board of directors that you needed for this time in your organization, what could you accomplish? I want you to dream for a second. It's okay to think big. So, just tell me if you could use these methods, and you can, by the way, right? You're going to be equipped here. We're going to be done in about 12 minutes, and then you're going to be able to just go for this. So tell me, what could you accomplish? Right? What would this mean for you personally if you are less stressed out about board recruitment, if you are less worried about what your board members were going to say about the organization? What could you do? What could your nonprofit accomplish if you had this exact right group, centered around your table? I really want to know, what's that going to do for you? Why you guys are telling me that. I want to remind you of a few things that are not going to work, right? It's not going to work to keep winging it. You can't just keep hoping that the right people fall into your path. It's just not how it works. Sometimes I wish it did. Hope, what do they say? Hope is not a strategy, right? It's not going to work to let your board chair go recruit so-and-so because they work for the company you hope will write a big check. It's not going to work. You might get the gift, yes, but long-term, it's not going to be best for your organization. It's also not going to work to say, gosh, we need a lawyer on our board, right? When your biggest goal is to handle HR issues or to launch a capital campaign. So we have to be really wary of recruiting for specific skill sets just to kind of fill all these buckets when that's not where our organization is going. And, someone reached out to me earlier this week that said, our bylaws say we have to use a nominating committee. We have to have X number of candidates from this category and that category. So, I want to address this because I get that can be an issue, but they're not mutually exclusive. I think you can still work to get the right people on that committee and equip that committee with the information they need to make a great invitation, right? So if you have some limits based on your bylaws, get really familiar with that, see where your flexibility is, and then see what pieces of this workshop you can really incorporate. I'm going to go back here for a second. Erin kind of chimed in about the upside down agenda I mentioned. She said, oh, no, I'm sorry. Different thread here. Chiming in about what you could accomplish, more life-changing work. Yes, you can meet your goals. Better understanding of what we do, both internally and externally. Yes, that's what we want a board to do. Tasha says, if they had this system in place, they could have more partners and great board members that would be natural ambassadors. Oh, I love that language, Tasha. Yes, they can have their own positive story of the organization's impact. Marianne says they would have younger members, fresh ideas. They'd be fiscally sound. They could add more music education to schools and public. Absolutely. That is absolutely possible, Marianne. You can do this. Myra says we'd be focused, united, able to prioritize current and future goals. We'd have ambassadors for our organization who had confidence in the message they're delivering. They would look forward to their time working for the organization. That is huge. We want that kind of energy from our board. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that feedback. Listen, you're going to need to look at this holistically from many different angles to build the board you want. And what you learned today is going to help you get that start. Simply by defining your ideal board member, you'll begin a mindset shift that will help you look at recruitment differently. I think you probably already are. You guys are already dreaming about this. You know, Tim said that we're trying to diversify our board and working to understand what that means. Yes, because diversifying the board could mean a million different things. So if you're not really clear on what does that mean? Does that mean a more clear male-female ratio? Does that mean we need more corporate, representation? Or do we need people outside of our county? What does that look like? So really kind of nailing down that profile is going to help you define that. So starting with defining your ideal board member, this is going to help, and it will work all on its own. It's a standalone tool. But then you can take this idea even a step further. So I told you filers and experimenters that I was going to challenge you. And I want to talk about Shalene for a second because she's starting down this path with her nonprofit. And this is what she said. She said, too often as nonprofits, we get lost in our traditions and fail to look at new ways to evolve. This program forced me to take time to embrace these new, amazing new concepts. Andrea helped me realize that properly communicating and providing your current board with an awesome experience is the first step in helping recruit others for your organization's cause. Guys, I did not write that. Shalene wrote that. She's awesome. She is doing really great work here in our community. So Shalene's using this ideal board member method, but she's taken it a step further with that Build a Better Board training, which again looks just not at the ideal board member, but also looks at improving the experience of your current board members, the board meetings, how you talk about your potential board members. I call that using your board voice, and then what to say when it actually comes to recruiting those board members. So the magic here, right, is combining this tool with a few other strategies. This is where the magic happens, right? So the truth is the ideal board member method works as a standalone tool, but it really becomes magical when you combine it with some other strategies. And I mentioned most of these already, but you can improve the engagement of your current board members. That is really important. And you can use that board skills inventory sheet again to assess who you have and who you need to recruit. And then you can learn to use recruitment strategies that align with your ideal board member and how to use a specific voice in that message. So when you combine the ideal board member profile with these other tools, you start to get some really awesome results. So I know this is a really tough time for nonprofits, and yet I think the idea of recruiting the right board member is worth the time you need to invest to make it happen. And the truth is my experience was transformational, not just because I was able to identify my ideal board member, but because I just share my screen here for a second. I wasn't successful because I started with the ideal board member, and then it just all worked. I used a combination of these strategies. I worked backwards, paying more attention to the board members I had. I kind of did it the hard way, but now that I've had time to reflect on what works and how I could have made it a more of a straight line to the end goal, I want to make sure you have those tools as well, and that you don't have to learn the hard way. So basically, I want to help you kind of accelerate the impact of knowing who you need on your board and what that will do for you. So I told you earlier I wanted to quickly introduce you to the Build a Better Board training so that when you're ready, you can take some major action in this journey and then you can get that big yes. So you have already invested an hour to learn more about how you can create an ideal board member profile. And I just want to thank you so much for showing up here today. This means the world to me. And I just want to quickly show you the rest of this toolkit. Again, I know you don't have time to figure all this out on your own. You have so much going on. So I want to share this with you to make it easier and quicker for you to see the results. So here is just in a nutshell what's inside the Build a Better Board digital training. So they are really quick bite-sized training videos that are going to explain to you how to improve the experience of your current board members, how to know what they need, and then how to use the formula I've used to recruit the right board members. You get a couple templates. You get the template for that upside down agenda I mentioned that really helped us make our meetings just so much more effective. And then you get my executive director board report template that reframes that task we all have to do is writing that board report. It takes all the stress and work out of that process, just gives you a really clear template that is going to reframe the language that your board could understand. You're also going to get sort of an expansion on this workshop today and a workbook. So instead of kind of taking all your own notes, you have a workbook to go along with this ideal board member idea. In that training, I talked about the LinkedIn feature that will radically change how you use the platform to connect with board members. It is so awesome, and most nonprofits don't know it's there. So definitely the training, probably most of the feedback I've gotten has been about the LinkedIn feature. They're like, I didn't know that was there. And I talk about in the training 4 components that every recruitment message should include. And then why your board is probably doing you more harm than good when they ask their friends to join, and the strategy they can be using instead. So most of you, if you're local or anywhere in this region, you know Amy Elliott. Her entire job is to help nonprofits build capacity so they can make a bigger impact. And so when people like her buy into the system and give it their stamp of approval, I'm kind of blown away by that. Erin just dropped a comment too, and she said she's taken this training and that it was work and life altering, good info and actionable items. Thank you so much, Erin. I know that you are working hard at your United Way and you're doing awesome work down there. So I'm glad this training was good for you. So listen, if you're ready to be an action taker and use what you learned today and then combine it with some other strategies, this might be your next step. Listen, either way, you've already agreed that you need a better strategy. You already understand that investing time on this is going to pay off down the road. And you've learned a big part of the process through this workshop. So I want you to take some kind of action today. It might just be committing to working on your ideal board member profile. And that's great. That if that's what you do, I want you to do that. I want you to reach out to me if you need help. But if you want to go big and you want to just go all Stephen Colbert on us and all in, you might want this whole digital training so you can take care of improving your current board while you're also working on your recruitment efforts. So I am going to offer just a couple of bonuses just over this weekend because I really want nonprofits to have this. I want to make it really easy to say yes. So if you're watching this live, if you're on the replay and it's before Monday, August 24th, I'm offering a couple of bonuses. You'll get the board member welcome guide template, which basically, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger on the screen so you guys can see it here, you can edit that in Canva. You can customize it to your organization. And it's a great little tool to use when you have a new board member to really welcome them professionally. Somebody said earlier, we have to clarify the expectations. That's when it happens in that board member orientation and welcome process. And then the other bonus is the done for you recruitment scripts. So if you don't know what to say once you are ready to make that pitch and you have your ideal board member, I basically give you scripts you can copy and paste. You can use them on social media. You can use them in emails. I've even written some scripts that you can give your board members. I don't call them scripts with board members because they don't like that. They don't like being told what to do, but just kind of give them some ideas of how they can approach that ideal board member. So, basically, the entire training, you go at your own pace. You can repeat whatever section you want to repeat. It's very low tech. You just click the get access button, you choose a password, and then you'll have the link. And so again, it comes with the ED report template, the upside down agenda, the skills inventory worksheet, the ideal board member workbook. It comes with how to use your board voice training, recruitment strategies for LinkedIn, and plus the 2 bonuses. So that's a lot. And listen, it's $37. This is totally against what I pay a coach to tell me to do. She said I was crazy, and that it's really worth triple this. But you guys know I love nonprofits. I built this entire company around helping you make a bigger impact. And I am going to have to raise the price after this weekend. So if you think you're interested and you might want to have this when you're ready, I would get it now. It's worth over $400. So either way, I want you to decide to take action, right? I want you to remember, what you said you could do if you had the right board, and that's what's going to drive you. We already covered what's not going to work. We covered what to include, and now it's time to make a decision and decide, what you're going to do. So I'm going to drop a link in the comments if you'll give me just a second. Actually, I'm going to drop 2 links in there. I'm going to sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. This is the link to get the replay request. So if you didn't register ahead of time, then you can drop your name and email address in there, and I will then send you the replay later. And then if you're interested in learning more about the Build a Better Board training, and you want to kind of take advantage of that promo price, you can use that link, and it's going to give you that $37 price. So just want you to have both of those things there. I am so grateful for those of you who registered, who came to watch this, or if you're watching on the replay, thank you. No matter what you decide today, if you're going to just go all in on the Ideal Board Member profile, great. You're going to get, a ton of value from that. And I hope you got a lot of value out of this workshop as well. So again, just a couple of housekeeping notes. You'll get the replay if you registered today. But if not, use that link I put in the comments to get the replay sent to you. And then again, this launch price is only good until Monday at noon. So if you're watching the replay after that, I'm sorry, you'll still love the training. If you heard what Shalene and Amy said, it's worth every dollar. And last but not least, if you have any, let me just pop back on here for a second so I can see you. If you have any questions about this workshop, the information, email me, Andrea@19design.net, or head over to my website. I've got a template and tool shop there. And then let's talk about your struggles, how I can help you, because this is really important for nonprofits to have. So I'm so glad that you made this, made this a priority today. So great. I am just kind of going to look at the comments then here for a few seconds. If you need to jump off, great. But if you have other questions, just put those in the comments, and I'd be happy to talk through those with you as well. So thank you all again for joining, and I hope that you'll take advantage of the Build a Better Board training, or at least put this workshop into practice for your nonprofit.